Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating demographic mystery. We're talking about the sudden disappearance of the traditional teenage job and its totally unexpected, highly digital rebirth. It's this incredible story of economic shifts, technological revolutions, and an entire generation literally rewriting the rules of work.
To kick things off, let's ask a question that's probably crossed your mind if you've been to a local pool or a fast food joint lately. Where in the world did all the teenage summer jobs go? I mean, for decades, the summer job was the classic American rite of passage, right? You got out of school, you mowed lawns, you lifeguarded, you flipped burgers. It was just what you did. But suddenly, that cultural staple seems to have completely vanished. So what exactly happened here?
Well, looking at the data, it paints a pretty stark picture. Back in the summer of 1978, teen employment hit a massive peak of 58%. Entry-level jobs were everywhere, and baby boomers were snapping them up. But fast forward to recent years, and that number has plummeted to just over 31%. That is a huge drop. In just a few decades, we've essentially lost nearly half of our working teenagers.
Now, a massive drop like that doesn't just happen overnight. This brings us to Section 1, pushed out and opting out. Let's dig into the systemic pressures causing this shift.
What we're looking at here is a perfect storm of macroeconomic and societal forces that are essentially squeezing teenagers right out of the physical workforce. First, older workers are delaying retirement, meaning they're staying in these jobs longer. Then, you've got increased competition from immigrant labor for entry-level roles. Add to that the absolute explosion of automation. I mean, just think of all those self-checkout lanes replacing cashiers at your local grocery store. And finally, there's what we call the college industrial complex. Teenagers today face immense pressure to spend their summers in unpaid enrichment programs instead of earning a paycheck, mostly just to pad their college applications. Because of all this, there's this massive gap between our cultural expectations and modern reality. In our heads, we still expect a teenager's summer to look like flipping burgers or blowing a whistle at the community pool. But the harsh reality they actually face, they're forced to choose between an unpaid study abroad program or trying to compete for a minimum wage shift against a literal touchscreen kiosk and a 60-year-old retiree.
To really put that into perspective, 19% of the workforce today is over the age of 65. Think about that. Back in 1987, it was only 11%. And from a pure business standpoint, employers have figured out that older workers are incredibly reliable. They show up on time, they take the gig seriously, and let's be honest, they don't have high school drama or prom keeping them from taking shifts. So naturally, many employers just prefer older adults, which inherently pushes teens right out of the market.
But here's the thing. Just because they're losing those traditional physical jobs definitely doesn't mean teens don't want to work. That brings us to Section 2, the drive for independence. If you dive into grassroots discussions online, it is so clear that the desire to earn money is still very much alive. Take this quote from a teen online. "My brother immediately got a job after 12 because he wanted to build a PC for gaming. Our family isn't wealthy enough." This perfectly captures how teenagers still really crave that financial independence. They want to fund their own personal interests, and they know full well they can't always just rely on their parents' wallets.
And, it's not always just about buying the latest tech either. Here's a much more sobering quote from a teenager in India. "We have debt, my father has no job, so I have to find work." For so many young adults globally, earning money isn't just extra spending cash for a weekend out with friends. It's an absolute family necessity. So the drive to hustle is absolutely there. It's just the avenues for doing it that have completely changed. Because those physical doors have closed for so many, youth labor has simply migrated. Let's move into Section 3, the digital side hustle. And this brings us to a really fascinating concept, micro-entrepreneurship. It's basically defined as a small-scale, solo-driven business activity that leverages minimal capital and digital tools to generate income. Think of this as the modern-day summer job. Digital natives aren't walking around handing out resumes at the local mall anymore. They are actively monetizing their own skills right from their bedrooms.
And the sheer scale of this shift is honestly staggering. A recent consumer survey by Intuit shows that 66% of Gen Z and millennials plan to start or actually have already started a side hustle. 66%. That is a massive generational pivot away from climbing traditional corporate ladders and a huge leap toward totally independent entrepreneurial pursuits.
Now, this isn't just some fleeting internet trend either. Academic researchers are actively tracking this cultural shift. They're noting that digital natives are using their tech fluency to completely bypass those traditional barriers to entry we talked about earlier. Young people today value autonomy, flexibility, and creative independence way more than the perceived stability of a standard 9-to-5.
So how are they actually pulling this off? Well, they're acting as their own bosses, using the tools of the digital hustle. They're using AI and automation software to streamline their operations. They're using TikTok and Instagram as totally free marketing engines. And they're plugging into platform economies like Etsy and Fiverr to reach global customers instantly. Remarkably, surveys are showing that many of these digital micro-businesses are hitting profitability in a rapid 3 to 6 month cycle. That's a total game changer.
But as you might expect, we can't just look at this through rose-colored glasses, which brings us to Section 4, the risks of gig work.
The truth is, this new platform economy is a major double-edged sword. On one hand, yes, the digital hustle offers incredible flexibility and autonomy. But on the flip side, it often provides zero long-term career advancement. Sure, it offers a quick path to cash, but that usually comes with severe income instability. And while you do get that highly sought-after creative independence, you're essentially trading it for massive algorithm dependency, not to mention the potential for serious mental health burnout from constantly existing in an always-on, highly visible digital space.
A report from Jobs for the Future captures this exact tension perfectly. They noted, and I quote, "Gig work plays an important role in financial self-sufficiency, but offers little opportunity for career advancement. This highlights a very real, very present danger. While these digital gigs are incredibly accessible to anyone with an internet connection, they can unfortunately trap low-income young adults in isolated roles, leaving them with absolutely no upward mobility or long-term career scaffolding."
So we've seen the traditional physical jobs vanish, and we've watched the digital hustle rise up to take its place. Let's look at our final section, the future of youth labor.
If there is one core takeaway from this entire explainer that you should remember, it's this. We are running one massive experiment with the next generation's workforce. The traditional physical teenage rite of passage, the one where you learned how to deal with an angry customer face-to-face or how to manage workplace adversity under a real-life boss, that has permanently evolved into a highly fragmented, highly digital landscape.
So we have to ask ourselves, what is the long-term societal impact of replacing that physical, character-building summer job with an isolated digital gig? As these young micro-entrepreneurs scale their businesses and totally reshape the economy, how is that going to change the very fabric of our workforce in the decades to come? It is a massive social experiment, and folks, we are really just seeing the very beginning of it.
Hey everyone.